Welcome to the Evolving Life on Earth unit. The unit roadmap illustrates all the pieces that we're going to be investigating in the unit. While it's not as pretty as our unit roadmap, this unit is really about figuring out what's going on in this diagram. The vertical axis is time, arranged with the past on the bottom and the present on top, just like the layers of rocks stack up from oldest to youngest. Each of these cone-shaped blobs represents a different category of vertebrates, with the familiar shapes of mammals over here on the right, then birds, reptiles, amphibians, fish, and sharks. The width of each blob shows how many different species there were in a category at different points in time. There were very few different types of vertebrates down here at the bottom, and today there's more variety than there ever has been before. We'll focus on three big questions about this diagram. How did scientists figure all this out? What's the evidence for common ancestry? And what causes extinction and diversification? We'll discover evidence for some big events that led to mass extinctions in the past, but then we'll realize that humans are really recreating some of these circumstances today with our actions. And we really need to think about what this graph could look like in the future. We learned about 5 mass extinctions in the past, and the threat of a human-caused 6th mass extinction is worrisome. But we end the unit with students proposing solutions that can help us avoid some of those impacts. Let's go ahead and see how this unfolds chapter by chapter. In chapter 1, students learn how fossils form so that they can recognize that rocks record the environment and living things from the time that they formed. And they'll learn to read the progression of fossils in the fossil record like an unfolding story. In chapter 2, students obtain information about past evolutionary events like the development of the first amphibians. And then they write a news story describing how past environmental shifts caused changes to life. In chapter 3, we look at the evidence from bone structure and embryo development, and we realize that different forms of life share similarities that we may never have noticed. Some of those similarities are evidence of common ancestry, while others are evidence of organisms making similar changes to meet the needs of similar environments, like bats and birds both developing wings. We try to follow the evidence to figure out which is which. In chapter 4, students obtain information about past mass extinction events, and then communicate them to their peers. What patterns do they notice? Which organisms survive and which got wiped out? They even play a dice game to illustrate that some survival is about fitness and the rest is about probability and luck. They end the chapter with the realization that humans are recreating some of the conditions for mass extinction. We want to avoid this mass extinction, so it's time to start thinking about how our actions could prevent the 6th mass extinction. In chapter 5, students' job is to tell a visual story like a graphic novel, depicting a specific category of human-caused change. While they'll need to demonstrate knowledge about extinction events and come up with a creative solution using elements of the engineering design process, they're going to be communicating all of that through the practice of the art of storytelling. We cultivate students' ability to develop characters, illustrate the setting, and craft a plot that builds emotional connection to the message. In the end, something in their story should evoke a call to action to encourage readers to actually implement the solution that they propose. Hopefully you can see all of these elements of past, present, and future, problem and solution are right here in the unit roadmap. Now it's time for us to start uncovering the clues together. Let's get started.